Good evening. This is the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent, and here are the top stories. Federal government declares Tuesday, July 15, public holiday. Former President Buhari to be buried on Tuesday. Paperwork's being finalized for release of Buhari's remains to Nigerian government. Sule mandate Nigerians to unseat Tinubu. And court stops Rivers Administrator Ibas from inaugurating appointees. Details now. Thank you for staying tuned. The news at 6 begins with the federal government declaring Tuesday, July 15, a public holiday to honor the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. The holiday was announced as part of the 7 days of national mourning earlier declared by President Bola Tinubu in honor of Buhari. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, in a statement released through the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Magdalene Ajani, made the announcement. According to Tunji-Ojo, the holiday is a mark of respect for the late president's service to the nation, his contribution to Nigeria's democratic journey, and his enduring legacy in governance and national development. He urged citizens to use the day to honor the late president's memory by promoting peace, patriotism, and national cohesion, in line with his vision for a prosperous and united Nigeria. There are indications that paperwork are being finalized for the release of former President Muhammadu Buhari's remains to the Nigerian government. Buhari, who was battling with an unknown illness, died in a London clinic on Sunday at about 4:30 p.m. Vice President Kashim Shettima, President Bola Tinubu's Chief of Staff Femi Gbajabiamila, and other top government functionaries are in London to bring Buhari's remains back to Nigeria. Shettima and other Nigerian top government officials are helping to facilitate the final paperwork for the release of Buhari's remains. Meanwhile, Governor Umar Rada of Katsina State has disclosed that Buhari's corpse will arrive in Nigeria tomorrow, Tuesday, by 12 p.m. Meanwhile, the Katsina State Governor Diko Rada has stated that the late ex-President Muhammadu Buhari will be buried at his hometown in Daura local government area of the state on Tuesday. The governor stated this while briefing journalists on Monday at the government house in Katsina following the demise and subsequent burial arrangement of the former Nigerian leader. Buhari died on Sunday at a hospital in London, United Kingdom, at the age of 82. Following the sad news, President Bola Tinubu ordered Vice President Kashim Shettima and his Chief of Staff Femi Gbajabiamila to accompany the remains of the ex-president back to Nigeria. Now let's take a listen to a cross-section of Nigerians reacting to the demise of late former President Muhammadu Buhari. You're going to hear how Nigerians feel about the death of the former president.
Fine and good. Death is inevitable, according to the English. It's what happens to everybody, and nobody will escape it. Personally, I'm not happy that we lost him, because there are some people that he's good too. You get? So you cannot say you are happy over the death of any human being, irrespective of class or whatever that person has done. On it, I said sorry to the family, sorry to Nigerians, and sorry to everybody. We lost him.
About the death of Buhari, like what my colleague had just said, we are sorry. Nobody is happy about the death. But I believe they should learn a lesson, most especially leaders of Nigeria. Nobody is going with every wet. Accumulating wet does not mean anything. They appointed you there as the president of this nation. Try as much as possible to make the people happy. What has he gone with? What are the benefits apart from the name that he has made? So our president, those who are occupying the position of the government, should be able to have the mind of their people in whatever position they have given to them, assigned to them. Thank you.
In another development, former governor of Niger State, Sule Lamido, has stated that any patriotic Nigerian with the country at heart must contribute to unseat the present administration to save Nigerians from the difficult situation. Lamido stated this while addressing the People Democratic Party (PDP) supporters during an empowerment program at the party's headquarters in Dutse. Lamido also stated that he's supporting the opposition coalition under the African Democratic Congress (ADC) in its efforts to rescue Nigeria's democracy from collapse. He cited the increasing abuse of power, suppression of opposition, and erosion of democratic values by the All Progressives Congress (APC)-led administration, adding that the ADC coalition is not driven by selfish interests. Elsewhere, the River State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has barred the sole administrator of the state, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, from inaugurating newly appointed members of the River State Services Commission, pending the determination of a legal dispute over the appointment. Justice Frank Onyiri issued the restraining order on Monday after all parties in the suit abducted their final written addresses. He directed that status quo be maintained until judgment is delivered on September 29, 2025. The case was filed by the suspended chairman of the commission, Reverend Goodlife Idoko Ben, alongside Amadi Christian Echele, Chiminem Wisdom Jerome, and 3 other members who were appointed by the Imbato State Governor, Sir Simnalayi Fubara. The claimants are challenging what they described as their illegal removal by the state sole administrator, insisting that due process was not followed. They argue that Vice Admiral Ibas lacks the legal authority to remove or replace them, stressing that their appointments were duly confirmed by the River State House of Assembly and that confirmation records exist with the clerk of the House. In an affidavit deposed by the suspended chairman, Goodlife Idoko Ben, the group maintained that they had already received official letters of appointment before being abruptly sacked. The claimants are asking the court to nullify their suspension and restrain Ibas from swearing in any new commission members. They insist that the position of a sole administrator is not backed by law and that the actions taken so far infringe on the principle of separation of powers. The suit names Vice Admiral Ibas, the Accountant General of the state, as well as Access Bank, Zenith Bank, and 11 other parties as defendants. In party politics, the Julius Abure faction of the Labour Party has disclosed it is yet to fix a date for its next National Executive Council meeting, where the fate of party chieftains accused of anti-party activities, including Peter Obi and Governor Alex Oti, will be decided. Ayo Olonfemi, Deputy National Chairman of the party, made this known in an interview with a national newspaper. His clarification comes days after Abayomi Arabambi, factional National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, claimed that Peter Obi would soon be expelled from the party for alleged anti-party conduct. You will recall, Arabambi accused Obi, the Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate, of undermining the party by openly supporting the coalition-backed African Democratic Congress (ADC). He insisted that Obi's involvement with the ADC amounted to holding dual political allegiance, which he described as unconstitutional. Despite the claims, Obi has maintained that he remains a committed member of the Labour Party. However, Olorunfemi said only a properly convened NEC meeting has the power to take disciplinary action on such issues. In another development, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, recently in Nigeria divulged that the Niger Delta will not allow President Bola Tinubu to suffer the same political fate as former President Goodluck Jonathan in the 2027 elections. Akpabio made the declaration at the grand finale of the 25th anniversary celebration of the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) held in Port Harcourt, River State, according to a statement issued on Sunday by his media aide, Anyetie Ekong. In his words, they did it before and conspired to remove our son, President Goodluck Jonathan. This time around, the entire Niger Delta region has decided to speak with one voice. End quote. Akpabio, a former governor of Akwa Ibom and ex-minister of Niger Delta Affairs, praised Tinubu for prioritizing the region through impactful projects and institutional reforms. He cited the establishment of the Environmental Sciences University in Ogoni, the Maritime University in Okerenkoko, and other tertiary institutions focused on agriculture and technology as evidence of Tinubu's commitment. Let's move to the capital city, where our correspondent Nkamiang John gives us a live report from our VOP 96.1 FM studios in Abuja.
Good evening and welcome to developments in the nation's capital. I am Nkamiang John. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has urged Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo not to initiate any probe against his predecessor, former Governor Godwin Obaseki. Speaking at a gathering in Benin City, the Edo State capital, on Sunday night, Wike said although he had personal reasons to support a probe, he believes it is better for the state to move forward. He recalled the challenges he faced in helping Obaseki assume office and stated that despite those sacrifices, he would not encourage a political witch hunt. Wike advised Governor Okpebholo to focus on governance and development rather than settling old scores. The Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Isaac Lal Salako, has ordered immediate reforms in emergency care services at the Federal Medical Center FMC Jabi, Abuja. Salako gave the directive during an unannounced visit to the facility on Sunday. He also disclosed plans by the federal government to launch a cross-country emergency care training program aimed at standardizing and improving emergency response across public healthcare facilities. The minister's directive followed a public outcry over a viral video showing delayed attention to accident victims by the emergency unit of the hospital. He had earlier reported that the federal government launched an investigation into the viral video, which shows victims of a road accident reportedly left unattended by hospital personnel after being brought in by a good Samaritan. In the video, the individual who transported the victims to the hospital alleged that staff refused to provide immediate medical care, with one reportedly citing a lack of gloves. The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NUOG FCT chapter, has suspended its 3-month strike action with a directive for all members to resume work from midnight Tuesday, July 15, 2025. The decision comes after the intervention of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, who directed that 10% of the area council's internally generated revenue be used to pay off 3 months of outstanding salaries owed local government workers. In a statement issued after its State Executive Council meeting on Monday at the Union Secretariat in Gwagwalada, NUOG said the decision followed extensive deliberations and appeals from the FCT Minister, the FCT Traditional Council, and other key stakeholders. The Federal Capital Territory Police Command has launched an investigation into the death of a 23-year-old woman, Grace Godwin, who was allegedly killed by suspected one-chance operators and dumped by the roadside in Jabi area of Abuja. The command's public relations officer, Jofsin Ade, confirmed the incident in a telephone conversation with a journalist on Sunday. A security analyst, Zago Zola Makama, who shared the report on social media platform X, said Godwin's lifeless body was discovered early Saturday morning near Iya Abubakar Street. According to Makama, Grace, a fuel attendant at the mobile filling station in Mabuchi, had boarded a commercial bus around 8:53 p.m. on Friday evening. The bus was suspected to be operated by One Chance Gang. The criminals reportedly contacted her family around 11:56 p.m. the same night to demand a ransom. The police say investigations are ongoing to unravel the circumstance surrounding her death and to bring those responsible to justice. A fresh crisis is brewing in the Federal Capital Territory as indigenous contractors have vowed to shut down major roads in Abuja this week to protest over alleged non-payment of contract fees for the past 10 months. The contractors, mostly local firms handling cleaning, street lighting, maintenance, security services, and other infrastructure projects, accused the FCT administration of deliberate sabotage. They claim many of the contracts have been fully certified and completed, but the administration has failed to release payment despite repeated appeals and submitted documents. At a strategic meeting held at the weekend in Abuja, the aggrieved contractors resolved to stage a mass protest to demand immediate payment. They warned that the darkness in
That was our correspondent from VOP 96.1 FM, Abuja, and Kamiang joined. And now being joined by legal luminary, Barrister Ferdinand Zako, to discuss development underworld news at 6 this evening. Barrister, thank you so much for joining me. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you so much. The federal government has declared tomorrow, Tuesday, July 15, as a public holiday for Nigerians to mourn our late former president, Muhammadu Buhari. Quite a number of Nigerians do not have good things to say about him, saying that his administration, what they can remember, at least towards the twilight of his administration, was the cash crunch, NSAS situation, the Lekki Tollgate shooting. It's a whole lot of things that Nigerians have been counting, actually, to say this is the reason why they cannot say good things about his administration. But he enjoyed goodwill when he started out. What went wrong?
Well, it is obvious that there are not many things to cheer about the government of Muhammad Buhari. So you do not blame Nigerians who can count more negativities than the positives aspect of Buhari's regime. You just mentioned a few. There are so many in all aspects of our national life. You asked what went wrong. Yes, what went wrong was that Buhari's government did not meet the high expectations of the Nigerian people. The government did not meet the promises they made to the people, and the government did not unify the nation because of the approach to governance adopted by Muhammad Buhari, which was very parochial, very tribalistic, very nepotistic, and very, very unfair to a large section of the people. So at the end of the day, Muhammad Buhari's government was more interested in pacifying and satisfying the yearnings of his tribal nation than meeting the expectations of Nigerians.
Barrister Francis Zako, if that's the case, there's been videos coming from some northern states, Kano and Katsina, with youth hitting the street, holding his pictures aloft and celebrating his death. So if he was working for his people, why are they celebrating?
Well, the fact is that when I mean his people, I mean essentially his Fulani ethnic nationality. Because Buhari's life, both in and out of office, both as a military head of state and as a civilian president, reflected a life that was spent for the interests of the Fulani and not for Nigeria. There are many instances where one can say that Buhari obviously preferred Fulani to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, he saw Nigeria as a country blessed for the benefit and the overriding interest of the Fulani nation. And that was why, even as a military head of state, he preferred to vote, he caused Nigerian delegation to vote for a Nigerian national, a citizen of Niger Republic, instead of a citizen of Nigeria for the position of the Secretary General of OAU. Even when many countries, about 5 or 6 countries in Nigeria, in Africa, supported the aspirant from Nigeria, one Dr. Ono, who was then the Deputy Secretary General of OAU, but Buhari caused that Nigeria should not vote for him simply because he was not a Fulani. Instead, he caused the delegation to vote for a Fulani man from Niger Republic. Everything Buhari did while in office was pointing to the interests of the Fulani. Is it the Ruga settlement? Is it the cattle colony? Is it the overriding patronage of the Fulani over and against any other nationality, subjugating the principle of federal character to the dustbin? So I think that not much can be said that was good about Buhari regime, but that does not mean that we should be celebrating his death. Anybody who is celebrating the death of Buhari is not being respectful to the culture of Africa, neither respectful to nationality, to nature. When a man dies or a woman dies, you give respect to nature, not even to the fellow that died. The mourning of Buhari is in respecting nature, because we cannot create a human being. So, and that is why the Holy Scriptures ask us not to take away anybody's life. But whenever somebody has gone to the great beyond, the person will be missed, at least by the family. So you have to respect the feeling and the sympathy of the family and not celebrate the death of the fellow. So those who are celebrating his death are not getting it right. But generally, we have nothing much to cheer about the government of Muhammad Buhari.
All right, let's quickly talk about another development where the former governor of Niger State, Sule, has stated that any Nigerian who is patriotic and who has the country at heart must contribute to unseat the present administration in order to save the country and to save Nigerians from this difficult situation that we've currently found ourselves. One thing that we keep seeing is how people vilify the administration in power, believing that the next administration will actually do better. Just like it was in 2015, where the APC was a really strong opposition to the PDP government in power of former President Goodluck Jonathan. You could see the way they did their own opposition, right? But then it was anything but Jonathan. Buhari came in. A lot of Nigerians had high hopes that he would do better. He has gone now. They're saying they're missing his administration. President Tinubu is in now. The ADC coalition is coming up. It seems right now to be anything but Tinubu. Would you say Nigerians have not learned their lesson with always wanting to kick out the present administration, hoping the next one will be better, voting wrongly and expecting change?
You cannot you cannot blame Nigerians for their actions, because the country continues to decay by the decade, meaning that Nigeria is not making progress in any way, manner, or form. The only tangible progress that we are making in this country is the growth of our population. Every other thing is not progressive. Forget about all the things we have. Today we use mobile phone, and somebody will come and sit down and tell me that it is a sign of progress. Today we use computers, and somebody will tell me, oh, Nigeria is progressing. You now ask yourself, look around you. How many things that we use in our daily life that are made in Nigeria? And then sit down and introspectively look at the life of Nigerians. You see that the life of Nigerians continue to get worse over the period. And that is why every subsequent government gets worse than the former. For anybody to ever imagine that there will be a time when a government will be considered worse than that of Buhari, that tells you that nobody ever believed that such a time will come. But today, many Nigerians when they are comparing the current government with that of Muhammad Buhari, they will say that even Buhari's government was better. The reason is because Nigerians do not understand where their problems lie. The problem of Nigeria can never be solved if we do not restructure this country. It is a structural problem. The problem of Nigeria is a structural imbalance. A country that is so blessed, but it is not anchored on productivity. Rather, it is anchored on consumption. And whenever an environment is anchored on consumption, you will see a lot of fights. Because it's not like when you drop food for dogs or puppies, of about 10 puppies, drop food for them in a plate, you see them fighting. But when it is a matter of productivity, everybody will wear his thinking cap and will be very serious with productivity, so that what you produce, you consume. But a situation whereby we produce nothing, we only extract what nature has given us, export it, and then import, fight over the import, and consume. How can a country be well like that? So that is why every now and then, what you see is continued declining welfare of the people. In year 2000, I gave a lecture, a master's degree class in the University of Lagos. When I told that class that Nigeria will never, I was very emphatic, not prophetic, but very, very analytically emphatic that Nigeria will never grow or develop if we do not restructure this country. It was then that we started the idea of coming together in a movement that we called Movement for Nigeria Restructuring. The movement is still alive, and today I am the secretary of that movement. But unfortunately, despite all efforts we have been making, the people in authority, those who have the opportunity and privilege of being in power, are not looking in that direction.
Bison Zako, talking about the people in power, please permit me to just come in there. Talking about the people who have what it takes to do this. Sule Lamido was a former governor, yes, under the umbrella of the PDP. I mean, pun not intended. But what was he able to do then? We have a lot of people joining this coalition now saying, oh, we are coming to make a new Nigeria. Who one can pinpoint to as being a part of the rot that is currently bedeviling the country as at this moment? Can someone who caused the problem actually be the one to undo it? We're still having the same recycled people, the same people who have been there before, coming together now to join hands saying they want to push President Tinubu out, when to many Nigerians they are all one and the same.
Chioma, in 2014, the then opposition party, the opposition coalition that later became APC, campaigned vigorously on restructuring, and a lot of us bought into their campaign. A lot of us bought into their policies and programs without knowing that they were deceiving the people. And when President Buhari was elected, and we now begin to ask him to roll out his program of restructuring so that our country will be placed on the trajectory of growth and development, Buhari now claimed that it was his party that made promises of restructuring, that he, Muhammad Buhari, did not make such promise. And on that note, he reneged on a very critical aspect of his political campaign and on a very critical issue that brought the government in power. For the whole 8 years of Buhari's government, he never even looked in the direction of restructuring. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who himself in 1992 said in an interview to Guardian that he didn't believe in one Nigeria, that he believed in a Nigeria that will be restructured. Today, the same Tinubu joined Buhari to promise restructuring in 2014-2015. And today, the man who is expected to be the biggest Democrat and who will be the champion of restructuring to position Nigeria on the path of growth and development is not even looking in that direction. Rather, he is doing what we could call piecemeal approach to the issues. Yes, when we talk about piecemeal approach, we mentioned the issue of state police. Where is it today? People are being killed. Yet, that major policy that will bring safety to the people has been swept under the carpet. Today, the economy is not doing well. The issue that we'll talk about restructuring anchored on through fiscal federalism, whereby the center will be, the power at the center will be devolved down to the federating states. Nobody is talking about it.
What would you say is the reason for running away from this restructuring, if that's what we have in this nation?
Even the people in government, instead of them to be talking about issues that will deepen the growth of this country, they are talking about issues about state creation and creation of local government, simply deceiving the people when they know what the truth is and when they know what Nigeria needs. And that is why Buhari's government was a huge disappointment. And I can tell you that if Tinubu's government continues to remain on the same line of lying to the people and deceiving the people, the way the Buhari government did, I tell you that the government will end up not being the very best that Nigerians expected. So, back to your question in rounding up my thought. You asked about Sule Lamido. I can tell you that whether they are of the old stock or of the new stock, any politician or leader who is not thinking about structuring this country on the path of productivity and growth, I will tell you, we will not be the Messiah that we are expecting. Whether the leader is of the old stock or of the new stock, whoever that is not thinking of restructuring, anchored on through fiscal federalism, where the resources of this country will be adequately utilized and not wasted the way it is being done today, then such a leader has not started. is a no-brainer. And anybody who honestly wants Nigeria to grow must begin to think in terms of restructuring this polity to reposition Nigeria towards productivity and not towards this ostentatious consumption where leaders will be competing in stupendous amassment of primitive acquisition of wealth and without doing anything for the future of the country. The future of Nigeria is so bleak, and the way we are going, it will continue to get worse until we do that thing that we need to make this country a much better place. And I say this without fear of equivocation or a contradiction, that thing is restructuring anchored on true fiscal federalism. Anything short of that, Nigeria will remain in the doldrum.
Thank you, Barrister Fred Nzako. Now, I want to get your legal perspective on this particular situation, whereby the River State High Court, sitting in Port Harcourt, has barred the sole administrator of the River State, that's Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, from inaugurating newly appointed members of the River State Services Commission, pending the determination of a legal dispute over the appointment. Now, this case was actually filed by suspended chairman of the commission, that's the River State Service Commission, saying that they had been appointed before Governor Simfuba was suspended by President Bola Tinubu, and that in removing them, it was illegal and due process was not followed. Governor Simfuba was suspended for about 6 months, just 6 months, which is coming to an end very, very soon. With all that the Vice Admiral, the sole administrator of the state, has been doing, some Nigerians feel that he's moving as if he will not live there anytime soon. Wike and Fubara have made peace. I mean, the president has been able to broker peace between the both of them. So is it not yet time for Governor Fubara to be reinstated?
Well, it is, in the first instance, the best time to reinstate Fubara was the day he was sacked. But meaning that his sack was not only unconstitutional, but against the tenets of democracy. But now that shenanigan has taken place, accentuated by the endorsement of the National Assembly, shamelessly, the way they did it, the rest thing we'll be asking for is that let that tenor be put behind the people of River State, and let the admiral be sent back to his deserved leave, and Fubara should come back to resume his office. Nigerians expected that, having made peace, that Mr. President would immediately ask Eboke Ibas to step down. But I do not think that that works expressly like that. He was given a 6 months assignment, and some of the things he has planned to do possibly will be done within the 6 months. What is important is that that tenure is not renewed, so that anything he's doing now, he should be working towards handing over to Fubara after the first 6 months. The so-called peace, I use the word so-called because until Fubara goes back to his seat and we see him performing, that's when we'll now agree and believe that there is peace. Politicians can spring surprises at any time, especially the type that is like Nyesom Wike, who is very unstable in character and in attitude. And until Fubara resumes, then we can now say yes, that he has resumed. And until Ibok Etekibas leaves that office, then we cannot say it is yet to Uhuru. So what we expect is that he should know that everything he's doing must be tailored towards the 6 months tenure that he has. Anyone that he has not completed, he should be ready to hand over to Fubara. Those ones that are not expected to raise unnecessary dust, he should be advised not to raise the dust. Like this issue of appointment of members of the committee. There's no need him going into that fray because that creates an impression that there is more to it than meets the eye. And Rivers people are not comfortable with his actions in that regard.
It does look that way, that people of River State are not comfortable with his actions. Governor Fubara was suspended in March. By September, the 6 months would have elapsed, and the court is actually saying that by that September 29, the status quo should be maintained till September 29 when that judgment will be delivered. Would you say the court is stalling to actually give Fubara time to return?
Well, the court does not have any reason not to allow Fubara to return. That will amount to meddlesomeness. We want to limit the meddlesomeness to that done by the executive, and we let the judiciary not get involved in such meddlesomeness. It is the executive and the legislative rascality that has kept Fubara out of power over and against the provisions of the Constitution and the tenets of democratic culture and principles. One would not expect that the judiciary will be dragged into such a mess. So we hope that that chapter should be closed come September 2025.
All right, then let's quickly talk about the Labour Party, saying that they have not yet set a date for the expulsion of their 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi. You recall that Abayomi Arabambi, factional national public secretary of the party, claimed last week that Peter Obi will soon be expelled from the party, saying he's involved in anti-party activities. His conduct is unbecoming of a presidential candidate of the Labour Party. He's holding dual political allegiance, which, according to Arabambi, is unconstitutional. Just yesterday, we saw Julius Abure visiting Wike at his Abuja residence. Could there be other things going on the ground that we are not seeing? Could there be any kind of talks, about, how do I put it now? But just putting a clog in the wheel of Obi's presidential ambition. Because I did speak to a Labour Party chieftain last week who said if the ADC does not work out for Obi, he's expected to return to the Labour Party and he will have a free reign to actually present as the party's presidential candidate come 2027.
Well, when you ask whether there is something that we are not seeing, there's nothing we are not seeing. We are all seeing it. The whole thing is playing out in the marketplace, except somebody who decided not to see it. It's very obvious that Labour Party has made itself available for manipulative tendencies of the powers that be at the center. And when they deny that, it's obvious that they are just playing the ostrich. There are two, you can't call them factions, but two disruptive groups in Labour Party. One led by Lamidi Apapa, which is no longer being heard anymore. They said that group has been fully settled and they have gone home with whatever they have garnered. Then another one led by Julius Abure that had just recently been captured, just to ensure that the fortunes of the party is thwarted. Now, even Arabambi, by the time Labour Party had some fair sanity, Arabambi was working with Lamidi Apapa, and today Apapa has gone home. Arabambi has now come up, possibly waiting for him to also receive equivalent handshake before he goes home. In all of this, it simply tells you that democracy is not deepening in Nigeria. All we are doing is transactional politics, cash and carry politics, cut and join politics, Ghana must go politics, politics of me, myself, and I. Nobody is thinking about anything that will be to the best interest of Nigeria as a nation. And that is why some people will now begin to contextualize this argument that Nigeria is really not ripe for democracy. But there's no country that is ripe for democracy if the people themselves do not make intentional efforts to run a sane society. Any society that lacks sanity is caused by the people. Because, you cannot import people from outside Nigeria. There was a time when we were colonized by the white men, and when they left, we said we have the capacity now to govern ourselves. You can now see how well we are governing ourselves, where nobody is interested in what goes to the country, but rather what goes to himself. And the very best of collective obedience that the person will have will be to his own tribal group and tribal ethnic nationality. Anything outside that. That is why an analyst has said that there is no Nigerian in Nigeria. What you have are people occupying the geographical landscape of the country, exploiting the natural resources of the country without being citizens. So we don't have citizens in this country. We have occupiers. And that is why there is no ideology in our politics. There is no respect for the collective sanctity of the people. Everybody is just doing what he likes. And those who have the authority, the mandate of the people, are not leading in the right direction. A country rises and falls with the leadership. If your leader is patriotic enough, the country will be, the citizens will follow their leader. President Jonathan gave that as an example. We saw it. It's not far-fetched. When he said that his ambition is not worth the life of every Nigerian, immediately it was like cold water was poured on a raging inferno, and then there was sanity and there was peace across the land. And immediately after the election of 2015, he saw the dynamics of what would have been the post-election issues, and he quickly, without even consulting anybody, surrendered the power to Muhammad Buhari. And that is why the whole world continues to respect him as a patriotic
Barrister
leader.
Fred Nzako, it's quite unfortunate because if the leaders are not patriotic, how do we expect Nigerians to be patriotic? Because of our time, in 1 minute, I want you to quickly talk about the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, who says that the Niger Delta will not allow Tinubu to suffer the same political fate as former President Goodluck Jonathan. You just mentioned his name as an example of a patriotic Nigerian. So if Godswill Akpabio is saying that they will not allow, or the Nigerians or the Niger Delta will not allow President Tinubu to suffer the same political fate as former President Goodluck Jonathan, I mean, what exactly does that even mean? Are we not dividing ourselves again along regional lines by saying, oh, the South will not allow this to happen, will not allow this to happen to our son, and such kind of statements?
It's a very shameful statement coming from a leader occupying such an exalted office. Our dear Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, has cornered for himself a reputation of careless and reckless talk. What was his contribution in unfair treatment that was given to Jonathan? And what was that unfair treatment that he was claiming that was meted on Jonathan? So what it now means is that he shifts his position at convenience. Now he wants to raise sentiment in favor of Tinubu, and he's using the name of Jonathan to raise such sentiment. The people of Niger Delta know what they want, and they know what they expect. The cleanup campaign that they said would take place for the past how many years, 10 years that APC has been in power, has any cleanup been done? Has their life been better, apart from the bold moves, intelligent moves made by the late President Yaradua that integrated the militants and started making life better for the people through the creation of Ministry of Niger Delta and the rest of them? What specific thing has this party, APC, done for them that will make them to be so excited about the mere mention of the name APC? I think Akpabio was only playing politics, and his usual manner, he is standing on the mandate.
Well, so he says Niger Delta, they're the ones who actually bring the wealth of the nation. They produce the wealth of the nation, and they have the right to choose who manages their resources. So no one can become president without consulting the Niger Delta.
Nobody can become president without consulting all parts of the country, not only Niger Delta. Every part of the country. Constitution has said so, that you must make 25% to become president. You must make 25% of lawful votes cast in 2/3 of the states, in addition to having the largest number of votes. So what is he talking about? He's only massaging the emotions of Niger Delta people, where they are dancing and clapping their hands and spending the money of NDDC. It is they are expected to be alive to the responsibilities of the people, the yearnings and aspirations of the people of Niger Delta, and not to only use them when they need their votes. And that's exactly what Ababio was trying to do.
Thank you so much, Barrister Fred and Zako, for joining me on the World News at 6 this evening. Your presence, your perspective, your analysis has made all the difference. Thank you and have an amazing evening.
Many thanks.
Thank you so much. You have been listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Let's quickly take news on the foreign scene before we go. Donald Trump says he's very, very unhappy with Russia has announced plans to deliver top-of-the-line weapons to Ukraine. The U.S. president also says he will introduce very severe secondary tariffs of 100% if no ceasefire deal is reached within 50 days. The announcement came during a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in the White House. Trump's dramatic U-turn indicates he's run out of patience with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he's had productive talks with the U.S. envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, in Kyiv today. In Russia, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says it's very important talks over Ukraine continues. That's it on the World News at 6. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard that the federal government has declared Tuesday, July 15 as public holiday. Former President Buhari to be buried on Tuesday. Paperwork's been finalized for the release of Buhari's remains to Nigerian government. Sule Lamido mandates Nigerians to unseat Tinubu, and court stops Rivers Administrator Ibas from inaugurating appointees. That's it on the World News at 6. My name is Chioma Innocent. The World News at 6 was produced and edited by Esther Mwachuku. Good evening and thank you for listening. Do stay tuned. Coming up shortly is the Evening Rush with Esther.